Welcome to this month's Zoominar, brought to you by the all-volunteer nonprofit 24 Hour Dallas. Today, we're also going to be streaming on our 24 Hour Dallas Facebook page. We're going to meet and learn from three Dallas entrepreneurs who are in the food industry and have achieved great success and expanded their business during the pandemic. And this is something I think a lot of us want to hear about. The mission of 24 Hour Dallas is to advocate for a nighttime Dallas that is safer, more inclusive, more economically and culturally vibrant for residents, businesses, and guests. We're part of a network of individuals and organizations in major cities around the world that are focused on the nighttime economy, nighttime culture, and nightlife. My name is Randall White. I serve as president of the board of 24 Hour Dallas. I'm also its founder. Our co-sponsor today is Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce. We thank them and its president, Harrison Blair, who serves on our advisory council. Our guest host today is a fellow volunteer and member of the 24 Hour Dallas Board of Directors, Ruben Lael. And before I turn the webinar over to him, I would like to welcome in admiration our panelists, Wes, David, Chef Williams. Thank you for your time and your contributions to Dallas's food scene. And now, Ruben, it's all yours.
Thanks, Randall. And I'm excited to serve on the board for 24 Hour Dallas. And yes, we are talking about dark money. And no, that's not black money. That's the nighttime economy. And we're definitely interested in making sure that the 24-hour economy here in Dallas is well represented. So I'm excited to be a part of this great organization. But today specifically, we are talking about black money. To celebrate Black history and to kick off our equity campaign, we are hosting this dynamic conversation entitled Black Business in the Black. And we have some dynamic business owners with us today that are going to give us some secrets and some tips on how to be successful as a Black business owner. So I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll start with ladies first. Chef Amber, can you tell us a little bit about your business and how do you fit in Dallas's 24-hour economy?
Sure. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm Chef Amber Williams. I own the Rouge Cuisine food company based right here in Dallas, Texas. The Rouge Cuisine is an elevated culinary brand. We specialize in providing Creole fusion cuisine and providing unique and amazing organic spaces to enjoy food and service as an experience and not just as food. I am a mobile business, so I don't have a brick and mortar, but I serve the entire DFW Metroplex. So that means wherever my clients are, that's where I am. So what's great about my company is, yeah, I can serve throughout all times of the day, the morning and the night. And my clientele are those people who really are looking to celebrate and to pivot and to have their events in a unique and special way. And that's where I come in because the food is the most important part.
Awesome. Thanks, Amber. Okay. To my right, maybe your left, David. How about you introduce yourself? He's the owner of Turkey D.A.M.
How are y'all doing? My name is David Singh. I own Turkey D.A.M. I'm the CEO of D.R.D. Entertainment. We own Turkey D.A.M., which is off of McKinney in Uptown. We're opening up a steakhouse this weekend called 1001 Bistro. And then we have a third restaurant that we're opening up called 1001 Live. It's going to have live music, cigars. It's going to be more like a laid back atmosphere. We have over 700 whiskeys. Turkey D.A.M. is basically a mixture between like the turkey leg concept and Prospect Park in Dallas. We're a sports bar. We have a lot of day parties, night parties. We open up at 11 o'clock in the morning. We close at midnight. And on weekends, we close at 1 o'clock in the morning. But we sell all types of foods, lobster, mac and cheese, a bunch of different foods that are different than, I guess, what you would normally see in a sports bar. But yeah, that's what we have going on in Uptown.
All right. And last but not least, Mr. Wes Williams. Talk to us.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Wes Williams, owner-operator of BurgerIM, located in the West End area in downtown Dallas. It's a boutique halal hamburger restaurant and bar, which is unique amongst all of the other locations within the franchise. There are a few that actually do serve liquor, but my location is a signature build out, and it actually has a signature energy where it actually gives you bar energy. So the execution is more of a bar with good food versus a restaurant that serves liquor. And for me, what I bring to the, I guess, the area, the nightlife, is a different energy. My atmosphere is what I call a forever kickback. It's not the club. Respect to the club, because sometimes the club is necessary, but that's not what I'm selling. It's a forever kickback. It's a vibe. It's a laid back, real chill atmosphere with different variety of energy. So whether it's hip hop, R&B, Afrobeat, atmosphere house, lofi music, live music, whether you're a cigar smoker, whether you enjoy a good hookah, signature drinks, it's something that's not the norm for the average franchise location. And in the West End area is something that's new, given the fact that my location and just me as an entrepreneur, I'm the first restaurant bar in the history of the West End area downtown. So that's just what I'm bringing to the table, forever kickback.
Awesome. And if you have not been able to visit any of these locations, Turkey D.A.M or BurgerIM, or if you've never enjoyed the cuisine from Chef Amber, I can give them 5 stars. I have enjoyed the experience. I've enjoyed the food. So please, let's take this opportunity, not just as we celebrate Black History Month, but all throughout the year, because Black History is 365. Make sure you support these Black-owned businesses, and we'll be able to share a little bit more about their businesses on our social media. All right. So we're going to go through about 2 phases of today's conversation. The first phase is going to be a lightning phase. The second phase is going to be a more detailed question. And then we'll open up for any questions from the chat or those who are watching on social media. So I'm going to start by asking 10 questions, and I want my panelists to give me a yes or no to these questions. All right.
All right.
Here we go. Are you open or provide a service between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m.?
Yes.
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 Are you a first generation business owner?
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are your customers Black only?
No.
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 Okay. Can customers order your service or products online or to go?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yes, you can.
Okay, sweet. Do you have employees?
Yes.
Not yet.
Yes, I do.
Okay, sweet. Have you or would you hire employees from other races that are not Black?
Yes.
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 Have you experienced any form of discrimination as a business owner during your tenure?
Yes.
No.
Definitely in Uptown, for sure.
Okay. Do you feel that Black businesses or Black ownership is something that is overlooked?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
2 more questions. Did your business face challenges as a result of the pandemic?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Last one. Has your business fully recovered post the pandemic shutdowns?
No.
No.
We opened during the pandemic, so I don't know.
Okay, cool. So I went through this lightning round because that just gives our audience a different perspective of our owners and just your experiences, right? Chef Amber, you talked about not having a brick and mortar because you're more of a mobile business. So, you know, her makeup is going to look completely different as a business owner from Wes and from David, who have full-fledged operations, full-fledged staff, and provide a different texture when it comes to their service and their product. But as we know, Black business is something that's not new to American or U.S. history, right? Many of us are familiar with Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what we affectionately coined as Black Wall Street. knowing that historical perspective, where do you feel Black businesses stand in today's economy? And what stereotypes do you feel that we're still trying to overcome? I'll yield to the lady first, and then we can kind of shuffle it up.
Okay. So, so the first question was, where do I think Black businesses stand today?
Yes.
I really think Black businesses stand in an amazing place. One, because eyes are being opened, ears are being forced to listen. We now have a platform. I don't necessarily like the way we got it, but we have it. So I think that opportunity is there. In that, some of the stereotypes that we're still having to overcome, I wrote some down. Bad service, unprofessionalism, poor communication, bad turnaround for products and services, and all these things that do not make up Black businesses.
Okay, nice. What about David or Wes?
For me, I would say, where do Black businesses stand in today's time? I would say that we're now, I guess you say the microscope is more prone to be on us now. We're innovators. A lot of concepts and ideas that we see throughout the country in regards to the nightlife, whether it's the restaurant industry or so forth, a lot of those ideas come from us. And so we stand as kind of the leaders still in just the different concepts and just different executions. So I guess you could say like role models per se, but as it was stated before, the spotlight is now on us in regards to our businesses. So
As far as where do we stand, I think that a lot of what people portray of us is based on assumption. I don't necessarily look at, in reality, a Black business being any different than another culture's business. The problem is that I think that we're a little bit more criticized underneath the microscope based on the fact that we are Black. So sometimes, like people look at it as Black Lives Matter or Black is this and Black is that. I've dealt with a lot of criticism just because I'm in Uptown, and having 3 restaurants right next door to each other on the same block has really kind of ruffled some feathers based on the fact of no other reason than the fact that we're African American. I've had, in dealing with what I've opening during the pandemic from October to right now, there's a lot of what I've experienced before this situation happened to now was 2 different situations. What was different before was that, hey, as long as you're not involved in or dealing with per se Uptown, we were okay. But now I'm dealing with different situations in Uptown that I never dealt with before. For example, my dad's been in the club industry, the nightlife industry for 30 years and 30 clubs, and some of the things and situations that I'm dealing with now, they've never dealt with before. And I've been around it for 20 years and I've never dealt with it before. The permits, the hoops that I have to jump through are not necessarily things that other cultures have to jump through. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a person that doesn't like to deal with, what is correct or deemed correct, but I want it to be a standard. And I don't think that they are holding us to the same standard that they're holding other people to. But as far as standing and where do we stand today, I think it's good. I think the other cultures are actually seeing what we bring to the table and not just, giving us a pass because, oh, it's a Black-based business, or, there's every business has steps and things that they got to take care of to grow. But at the end of the day, I think that the leadership that we provide and the things that we do for the community, I think it's going in a great direction. Now, like she said, I don't know that it's going in a great direction just because they're giving us a chance. I think that, it was kind of forced, but as long as we get the chance to show them that we're different than what the stigmatism is or what the actual thought of a Black business is, I think we're doing well. I think we're going in a good direction.
I would agree. You touched on a couple of things, and I'll pivot to one of those, David. We know that in the summer of 2020, the murder of George Floyd really sparked a new interest in the economic advancement of Black people and Black businesses. We had Google, who added a search feature, different applications. Uber Eats has a whole category, set aside for Black-owned businesses, especially Black restaurants. Did any of you see a surge in sales or revenue during that time? And is that the right way for us to go about supporting Black businesses? Is that a good approach? That's my question.
I definitely did. I did see a surge in regards to, number-wise customers wanted to support. And I know for me, sometimes, and this is just outside of just the online platform or just the attempt, sometimes there's a lot of cheers towards the symbolic victories, and those are cool and are appreciative. But I know for my aspect, if you really want to support, you dig in your pockets, and I mean real significant gestures, such as whether it's certain grant programs for entrepreneurs or for businesses, certain contracts. At the end of the day, we're all trying to make some money, and so the biggest way that you can support is, one, okay, of course, to respect the business as well as the culture, but two, dig deep in your pockets and, and actually do business with us, not just because it's the end thing or it's a fad or, okay, now I want to go online and buy it. Like, no, make it a prolonged attempt and thing that you actually do. So.
Anyone else want to add to that?
I know for me, I saw a surge in awareness. A lot of people wanted to know about the brand. A lot of people wanted to, shout me out and do those things. But I'm right with Wes. The biggest way to support is to dig in your pockets. Now, luckily, I had right when the pandemic started, I pivoted to do a quarantine meal program where I was delivering meals. So I had a lot of people, non-Black, that were really ready to donate and things like that. And because of that, I was able to serve a lot of needy families. But yeah, that's the best way to support.
Thanks. As far as support, I mean, I'm pretty new. I'm not sure when their businesses started, but I think that there was definitely a support in the beginning of, people were only kind of in the beginning of like the pandemic were only supporting Black businesses, like, hey, spend Black, or, and especially dealing with some of the things that were going on in the culture. I guess for lack of a better word, we're looking at what's already happening anyways, meaning I think that was the direction that we were heading. And it's not that we're better than anybody else. It's not that we are doing anything different. I think that we are kind of catching on to the fact that other cultures spend money with themselves. And we are so stuck on what's known or labeled or named brand that we've been kind of stuck in their system. But now we kind of sit back and look, if we're eating at one place or the other, I don't necessarily think that it was what we were paying attention to before. But now I think it's like, hey, is this Black owned, or is this an African American, or is this something that is deemed as culture? I want to go there instead of just choosing what is popular, I guess, if that makes sense. So, as far as me, like I said, we just opened, so I can't really say if there was a surge or not, because obviously when you're new, there's always going to be a surge in any way, shape, or form. But as far as people are supporting because it's Black, no, I definitely think, especially me being in Uptown, people are proud of that. There was a lady that walked through the courtyard. I have a courtyard in the middle of my restaurants, and he kind of looked around, and there was a lady, and they were kind of holding hands, and they looked, and it was a moment for me because they came up to me and they said, to be in this, they said, this is for us. And I've been around businesses for a long time. So sometimes as an owner, you just look at, okay, how can we build? How can we make the community better? But to be stopped in that moment and somebody tell you, hey, like, this is something we can be proud of. This is something we can stand on. I think that's a great thing. On the back of our shirts for my waitresses here, it says we are culture, and we accept culture for what it is. Whatever you feel like the culture is, however you were brought up, blue, white, brown, purple, whatever it is, we accept that, and that's what we stand on. That's our mission statement. So I definitely think that there's been a surge. I just, like I said, we're new, so I can't really say, one way or the other.
Right. And I think going back to something that Amber said previously, how do we change those narratives of those stereotypes that in some shape or form or fashion, we've placed those narratives on Black businesses through the voices of Black people. Right. So when other customers that are non-Black hear these comments, we in some ways perpetuate that through our narrative. But one way for us to reclaim that narrative and make sure that businesses have the right reviews and they have the right perspective from other clientele is through celebration. Right. So it's a beautiful thing to hear your story and of how that customer stopped you and said, hey, this is for us. This is a moment that we can be proud of. So just a note to all of those who are watching, those who are watching the replay, take a moment to make sure that, we shape the narrative of our Black owned businesses in a celebratory, way. That way, when people listen to your experience or they listen to, these groundbreaking stories of how we're making strides of having, brick and mortars in Uptown in the West End, there can be some type of ownership and we can continue to enlarge the parameters of support, of Black owned businesses. Another piece, you can't talk about 2020 in the Black Lives Matter movement, the election, the pandemic, without also talking about, protesting and some of the effects that they had on businesses, especially here in Dallas, right? And I think Wes has a direct story where his business kind of received the short end of the stick, during that season. So Wes, give us a little bit of that story and then I'll have a follow-up question for you.
So essentially my location suffered 2 broken windows in the midst of the riot that shifted from the protest. And so me personally understanding the dynamics of a protest, which is a unheard cry for help, and how it shifts to a riot. Once you don't listen to that cry, then those individuals force you to listen to the cry. And that's why it shifts to a riot. So understanding that and just the culture, when my windows did get broken out organically, I didn't get mad or I didn't take it personal because I get it. I get it 100%. And so what I've told a lot of people is sometimes business happens and sometimes a window gets broken, sometimes your AC goes out, sometimes your walk-in cooler goes out. But if this type of thing rattles you, this isn't the world for you. I kind of describe it as the zoo in the jungle. Whereas in respect to having a job, but a zoo would be considered your 9 to 5. It's controlled, when you eat, when the spectators are coming. Being an entrepreneur or having a business, it's the jungle. And, sometimes the weather changes on you. Sometimes the terrain is different. Sometimes you got to go get the meal. Sometimes the meal is right in front of you. So, if this is a world that you want to be in and kind of maneuver through, you have to expect the unexpected. And so when that did happen, the idea of your network is your network, doing good business and having a good reputation, people are willing to give you a hand when the SOS is sent out, because they know your reputation, they know you stand on good business. So when the windows got broken, I took a deep breath, started sweeping, made a phone call, and called a company and had them come out, within probably 3 hours and fix the window. But before they came out, I went ahead and took a picture just to let people know if you see broken glass or wood, hey, I'm still open tomorrow. Please come and get some burgers. And so the cool part was that that negative in regards to the windows being broken turned to a positive, because sometimes during the day-to-day, just kind of ups and downs, people's words don't really resonate with other people. And it's not, purposely people are not listening to you. So when I did the post and I kind of said what I said in regards to the window being a luxury tax, it happens, I'm still rocking and rolling, come buy a burger. People say, hey, I can respect that. Like, he genuinely gets it. It wasn't forced. He's not mad. He understands business. And so there were a lot of people that resonated with what I said. And that next day it was a block party. So, that was the cool part. And, as the young lady stated, you hate for the positive spotlight on your location to be based off of a horrible, uncalled for situation, but here we are, you know what I'm saying? And, you just got to, you rock and roll with it and you move forward and you do good business and lead by example. And of course that eliminates and dies down those stereotypes of the Black business or the customer service or the product, or this is what you expect when you know what I'm saying? You do good business, you operate as if you were going into the business. What's going to keep you here for at least an hour? So all those elements like customer service, clean environment, good atmosphere, good music, good product. You just do that, and it resonates with people, and the business flourish. But I suffered the two broken windows, and I was able to bounce back, and now we're of course in the pandemic, and we're still rocking and rolling.
Right. That's an amazing story. And I definitely was able to catch different of my colleagues that were on live actually that day that you actually had the unexpected block party, because the city came out and really, rallied and wrapped their arms behind, your business and what you were trying to do in the West End. But because we know that that was such a time of tension and unrest, we were in the middle of a presidential election. Everyone, myself included, was trying to get people out to vote and to exercise their rights. I think we also have to open light on how are we culturally aware as business owners. So, I'll start with Chef Amber. Like, what do you do to be culturally aware to make sure that you're able to service all customers and make sure that they feel, valued and respected?
Yeah, so I'm huge about the diversity and making sure that my food is a vehicle for my culture, and it's also a way to celebrate other cultures. And I think the key to being culturally aware is to be aware of the cultures around you. And we already know America is a melting pot, but Dallas in of itself, I've done my research. For those who have kind of followed my brand for some time, I'll be in my 7th year of business, but I was supposed to be at the farmer's market before the pandemic hit, and that got shut down. But the main thing that I was riding on was a brand that was celebrating all cultures. So I did a research of all the different ethnicities and all the people that just live in the DFW Metroplex. And it's crazy. We got some of everybody, Russians and Cubans and African, like everybody. And one thing for me, I love to network. Well, pre-pandemic, love to go to networking events. And one thing that I always do is I try to put myself in places of people that don't look like me. So I take off that chef coat. I let people see the face behind the brand. I shake hands, and I change the trajectory of the narrative that people think Black businesses are. So when they meet me, they're like, oh, she is professional and she can, conduct business in that way. And that's how I try to change that narrative by being a physical depiction of the change, of positivity. So I welcome that diversity. And a lot of times in those groups that I'm in, I am the only Black person in the room. And I take it as a sense of pride. I go in there with my head held high and I speak up and I demand respect. And I get it as such.
That's legit. How about David? I know that yours would expand into more of an employee space. So like, what do you do to make sure that your employees are trained and they're aware and they know how to kind of respond to, situations that might, ruffle some feathers, for others?
Well, so when we first started, as far as like real advertising, meaning radio, TV, marketing, like we really didn't do a lot. One thing I learned from my dad, and he's always, spoken highly of or held his hat on, is that he never opened a business where he was trying to create a funnel. He was never trying to give it an identity from the beginning, meaning, when you're coming in, I'm not looking for a Black person or a white person or Asian person or a blue person. It's more so, what does the business or restaurant identity develop for itself? And for the first 6 months, it's everybody's going to come try it out. People are going to have their opinions. People are going to say they hate it, they love it, they want to, congratulate you, all these different things. I was sitting, you know, we don't walk around here like, oh, we're the owners or we're this, we're that. You know, we like she was saying, you kind of got to take the chef coat off and really kind of see it from the other perspective. That's really the only way that you're going to learn as far as a business owner or dealing with other cultures. You have to see it how they see it. I was sitting on our front porch. We have a big patio. We do hookah and we have a bunch of different things. And we don't really have a sign that's really visible. It's more so I really just want people to walk up and form their own opinion without looking up and seeing what's what. And so I was sitting there, and it was the funniest thing. There was some Caucasian people that walked up, and they kind of halfway walk up the stairs, and they looked at the sign, and they looked at us, and they looked at the sign, and then she walked up the stairs one more time, and I happened to be sitting right there, and she said, I have a question. And I was like, what's your question? She said, do y'all accept our kind here? And I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean? She said, do you accept? And she whispered, white people. And I'm like, I mean, this is not the 60s. Like, yeah, this is open for business. You can come. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't think that you could come in here. But and they came in, they ate a lobster mac and cheese, and they loved it. And they said they would come back, and they come back almost every single night. But you have to look at it from the outside perspective. What made them feel like they couldn't come in? What did we do to make them feel unwanted? And so and I really thought about it for a while. So I went to ask them. I said, when y'all walked up, what made y'all feel like y'all couldn't come in? And she said, well, you know, we saw a bunch of African American people, and we didn't know if it was okay, or if you guys just felt like, you know, this was your place, and you know. And she said, and we would have respected that. And that started making me think about the culture. What is the culture? What are we teaching people? Why are we not giving people a chance, you know, from the beginning? The same way that we walk into a Papados or, you know, whatever, and don't worry about who owns it as long as they have good food. Like, what makes people so scared to come to Black businesses that are from the different culture? And I think some of that, a lot of it stems from the way that we act or the way that we talk. Some things that we may say innocently, and because we're cultured or because we're African American, we understand it, because that's the, you know, like there's that typical thing where, you know, if you're walking by an African American male walks by another one, we talk about this all the time, and it's like, it's the head nod. It's like, hey, what's up? Like, yeah, I got your back, bro, like you got mine. But some of the things that we do innocently may be taken as offense to the other culture. Now, we're not saying we have to change who we are or what we do, but we do have to change how people perceive us or see us, because we'll never really get through to them to understand, like she was saying, that we are actually able to sit in the room with other cultures besides ourselves. We can go in, we can sit there, we can get the loan just like they can get approved for the loan. But it's also in the way that we carry ourselves. I think that, you know, us coming together as one will help society in general understand or see that just like they have 24 hours, we do too. We probably have to jump through more hoops just because of the skin, just because of the color of our skin. And it's crazy because they'll say, oh, that's not true, or oh, that's cool. But like, look at the permits that we have to get, and every single situation that, oh, they walked in the other day, and I know that they can like attest to this. Like, there's stuff that we got to do that we accept because of the color of our skin that they don't. And that's not, to me, that's not fair. Now, okay, life is not fair. That's the typical statement or whatever you want to say. But when we have to make sure they get down with the measuring tape, and the pipe has to be 2 inches above the drain, or if it's too low or too high, then they have to come back tomorrow, where I 100% can attest. I've seen it. I've been there for when they thought it was a white person versus a Black person. And I'm going to go there, and hey, you feel how you feel about it. But I've seen where one guy didn't even have a drain from his sink and still got passed. But this same person who came to look at ours, we had to get this, we had to do this. I mean, it was like a whole list of things before they would come back and pass us. And then it took a whole week for them to come out and revisit. Like, I mean, some of the things that happen, they can say it's scheduled, they can say whatever. But I mean, in my opinion, my personal opinion, I think that, you know, culturally, we are affected more than what everybody else is, and that's just my opinion. And like I said, they can take it how they want to take it, but us as owners, or us as a culture in general, you know, they don't really give us a chance before they stereotype us or prejudge us. And I don't think that that's fair. You know, like I told one of the city people, I don't know how they've dealt with the city during the pandemic, but from December the 25th or the 24th until today, I've been visited 37 times and I've gotten 0 violations. The police have been called. 27 times. I've gotten zero complaints or zero write-ups. Of the 27 phone calls they've gotten, it was one person, and the police went to them and asked them, hey, what's the problem? And they said, I don't have one, I just don't want them here. That to me is unfair, because you're judging us before you even get to meet us. If you walk out of Whole Foods and you see a whole bunch of African-American people, because we're predominantly Black, we're not all Black. There's a lot of people that come in that are of all shapes, sizes, and colors. But the fact that they look at us and say, oh, they're Black, it's going to be scarier, it's going to be louder, it's going to be ghetto, or it's going to be this, and we actually probably work harder to make sure that it's not than other cultures have to, and we still get thrown in the mud. I mean, it's bad, man. But that's just my personal opinion on it.
And I appreciate you being open about that, because that's the whole point of this conversation. And that's the whole mission behind our equity coalition that's within 24 Hour Dallas. We're trying to put these issues on the table, and we need to find solutions so that we can decrease these disparities and really provide more opportunities for Black-owned business and minorities to be successful. So thank you for just being transparent in this moment and sharing that with us. And because we know that there are some disparities, and we can look through history and we can talk about the wealth gap, in African-American homes. One thing, I'll circle back to David on this. I want you to talk about just what was it like to grow up in a household of a business owner? And I think Wesley could probably, Wes, you go first since David just finished. You said you weren't a first generation business owner. We know that Banks and Black business owners don't have the strongest relationship, right? And when we talk about capital, you need capital to be successful and to get past, year two and to scale. So, what was it like growing up in the household of a business owner, and, how has that contributed to your success?
For me, it was a great example. You understand the ideology of time management, where you have a job, but then you also have your own business. My mother, she's an attorney. Former CEO of Spartan for Children, which is a nonprofit child adoption agency. She's a law professor, but then she has her own law practice. And my father is a retired mechanical engineer, but then he's a licensed contractor. And so the real estate, whether it's residential or commercial world, I always had an idea about that. And so just kind of seeing how they maneuver with their time management, and everything is detailed, and, every day is like the first day. When it comes to just the actual work ethic and just putting your all into your business. So I've seen that at an early age. And so for me, of course, eventually I always said that I would want to, start my own business, get into real estate. And then I was always attracted to franchises, just in regards to the idea of a system. Once you get it down, it operates by itself. So it served as a good catalyst for me to get into doing business. And kind of to go into the remark that you made, in regards to grants and the money, as I stated earlier, I had a conversation, kind of funny, had a conversation with a gentleman a white gentleman that owned another restaurant. And he reached out to me in the midst of the pandemic, and he said, hey, I see what you're doing on the corner, and it's caught a lot of people's eye, the way that you're keeping your customer base. He was like, I just want to sit down and talk and kind of pick your brain. And so we met up that next week, and we had a genuine one-on-one conversation, just in regards to just the difference in the cultures. And then we got on the topic of white privilege. And so I told him, I said, here's a very easy example to digest. I said, I'm pretty sure some higher up at a bank or at some financial institution. And he said, yeah, I told him I don't. So when it comes to the process of getting a loan or some money, you make a personal call, where I have to maybe put on a suit and schedule an appointment, and I have to go in and sit in front of a complete stranger and convince this person that I am a great business entrepreneur, and maybe you check my credit score, and maybe you want to know what I'm going to do with the money, and then it goes to underwriting, and it goes through this whole process. Whereas you pick up your cell phone and you make a phone call, or you might meet whoever on a golf course, or over a drink or two. But it's a personal interaction versus what I have to go through, and I don't have that privilege, or I don't really know big institutions that have access to money like that. That's why the capital raising phase for a Black business is so significant, because before we even put the key in the door and unlock, cut the lights on, and we're open, I mean, we have to get over the hurdles of getting money for the build out, maybe for uniforms, maybe to roll payroll, inventory, and then you have to sustain, because you're not going to go in the green, within the first year. It is what it is. So, when those aspects are really looked at and other cultures can't understand that, or it's like an eye-opening moment, that's when you really, that in regards to the Black businessman, just what we go through and just our hurdles, is not really digested with other people. And a lot of people really just don't get, why we may be so passionate about, things that we go through, our businesses, and, just our issues. Because like I said, before we even have our grand opening, we are already getting, hit in the gut. And, just like David said, given the permit process, I mean, granted, because I'm also still a full-time firefighter for the city. So, I know city employees. But for somebody that doesn't know somebody in a permit office, you have to go through the process. And I don't know if you've ever been down to the office, like you stand in line, you get a number, you finally get up to the desk, you fill out paperwork, where some people, they just make a phone call because they know the, individuals. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I don't have that access or those circles, even though I'm trying to network and get those circles. But on a grand scheme, that goes on throughout the country. Those people make phone calls and they get things done. And it's a more of a matter of, okay, well, I'm gonna pass you and, just take care of it. You know what I'm saying? I trust that you're gonna take care of X, Y, and Z, but here's your paperwork and so forth. Whereas I have to have somebody come out, have to look, and they're gonna, like I said, pull out the measuring tape and
Right.
inches to inches, and hey, look, you need this, you need this, and it's not saying that, oh well, what he's putting me through is wrong, because these might be the criteria, but I don't get the benefit of the doubt.
And we do know that it is not that Black-owned businesses or owners are not applying for loans or for capital support. It's just that they're denied at a higher rate
Right.
during that application process. So Randall just shared some grant information. If we have any Black-owned businesses that are tuned in, you can access this via the Zoom or
Appreciate you, Randall.
the Facebook. Take advantage of some of these resources and the opportunities that are out there in capital funding. I'm gonna open, we got some questions in, so we're gonna kind of pivot to that. We're almost wrapped for this conversation that I don't know if I wanna stop, but I'm gonna be respectful of everyone's time. But Chef Amber, before we get into these questions, what is it like being a female entrepreneur? We are in the celebration of Kamala Harris. This is the first female and African-American who has been elected to the vice presidency. So Black women empowerment is something that's huge. So kind of speak to us, what is your experience as a female Black entrepreneur?
I would say it's empowering. That's the best word to say. I mean, I look around and I see women like blazing the trail. I mean, knocking on doors and taking names, all that type of stuff. And I think where normally it would put pressure on me, I think it motivates me, it motivates me to think about that little girl who's also looking up to me. Like, I get DMs and things like that where people are asking, how do you do this? How do you get your clientele? How do you get these cool gigs and all this type of things? And I get to kind of pour back into them, but it also reminds me like, hey, somebody is watching you. Like, hey, you can't give up. Like, somebody is really looking at you to get motivation on how they can make it too. So I think, again, kind of like how we talked about earlier, how the opportunities are wide open for us as people of color. Women, it's the same thing. This is our time. Like, this is our time to really shine. This is our time to beat the pavement. And we have no excuses anymore. We don't. Like, the trail is kind of wide open for us. So I don't take it lightly. And I'm proud to be a Black female entrepreneur, very much so.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're gonna try to take some questions from the chat. We have one question that's kind of is in the same vein that we've been talking about. We know that white supremacy has created lies about Black people, culture, business, and all aspects of life. When this occurs, would it be more effective for sources of the lies and that we are deserved to have some resources that are provided to the rest of the population, as there has been dedicated effort to economically locking us out? So what do you feel can be done to decrease some of these disparities, and who's responsible for activating this type of change?
I mean, for me, I would say it's going to take efforts on both ends, because like I said, I can't force somebody to stop doing something. So the individual that's actually doing the cause, you have to first respect the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, understand, saying our platform and what we're trying to do in our history. If the respect is not there, then everything's washed. Like, there is no process. So once you respect something, then you understand and you start to really learn it and digest the different angles and the history behind something. And on our end, just business owners, when we do get certain opportunities, just make good of it, transfer energy. So once you get an opportunity and you become an entrepreneur and your business flourish, reach back and help somebody, because you might have access to a certain door that somebody doesn't, and they may have the same energy as you, the same passion and everything. They're just not in that circle, because you remember what it was like when you wasn't in that circle. So, each one reach one. So, look out for somebody else and, pass the torch. So that's on our end. But then, of course, like I said, for us to even get to certain doors, the individuals that are sitting there locking us out, respect the person that's knocking and open up.
That makes me think of Madam C.J. Walker, and I'll let you hop in here, David. If you watched her story, I think they did a biopic a while back. She was very, intentional about raising up other entrepreneurs and other women and other Black people within her company. So I think, David, along the same question, how do you provide that workforce opportunities for Black communities for us to kind of decrease some of these disparities that we're trying to address?
Here's the way I look at it, right? I've done a lot of research on cultures in general. One of the things that I think is the problem, and to touch on what Wes said, once you get the torch, you have to carry it as if your life depends on it. And the reason why is because we don't get a lot of opportunities. So once you get the opportunity to show or be whatever it is that you have been handed or been blessed with, or however the situation came about, you have to kind of coddle it like it's a baby. The reason why is because once you get there, they're watching you. They want to see, okay, can he handle it? Can she handle it? Is this something that can be allowed culturally, or do you fall into the stereotype? Oh, okay, well, you see what happens, they didn't pay the bills, or you know what still happens, they didn't pay their employees, or so it takes me back to when we were younger. The things I was doing a report on what raises you, individual or society. Does society raise you, or does your family household raise you? And the conclusion that I came to is that it's both. And the reason why is because you get your base or your moral values from your home, and then society kind of molds you, if that makes sense. Like you learn lessons and you get different things. One thing that I think that, especially, I'm not saying that any culture does it, but what I noticed about the Caucasian culture is that they teach them about money, business, and things just like that, just like the from people from China or Japan do. They teach them about money early. Some of the things that I learned as an adult or as a business owner, I should have learned way back when we were still developing. What they do, and to kind of set up the future, is like they'll have a credit card. Just for example, they'll have a $50,000 credit card. They'll order the card for like their daughter or their son or their business partner or whatever. So they're kind of coming together to make it stronger. So they develop a credit history, quote unquote, since they were 16. Most of us, the common person doesn't know that you can actually start establishing credit at 16. Most of us find out in college when we're trying to figure out what we're doing in life, and then somebody checks the mail and all of a sudden, hey, here's a credit card for $500, and then we go spend it and max it out with no job. And now, oh shoot, now the process or the time has started, and now we're digging ourselves out of a hole because later on we found out in life credit is not just based on, you know, your payments, or it's based on you know, your debt to income ratio. It's based on both. One is 35%, one is 10%. It's also based on where you are in life. So they compare your credit profile to other people who are your age and of your status, and they actually give you a number based off of that. So if you take that situation and you put it to basically knowledge, right? And you put us in that situation, we don't have the same knowledge, not because we're ignorant, but because it was never really taught to us, if that makes sense. So teaching basically what's behind us is what's going to change, in my opinion, the culture of how do we, you know, go against the lies or, you know, of white supremacy or whatever. Once you're a leader and once you make a stand, there's nothing that they can really do to you to disguise it or to put you down. Eventually, you know, it's kind of like a game with bad refs. You're gonna play 7-on-5, and us as African Americans are used to dealing with that in life. It's not that, you know, we want any better. At least I don't want to be treated better because I'm Black. I want to be treated better because I've done the work to get there. And what I was explaining to people is that there's a standard that everybody should have to follow or abide by, and us overcoming it doesn't necessarily make us, oh, well, you overcame all these things, so you need to be patted on your back or whatever. No, I want to overcome it so that the people behind me don't have to deal with it. Hey, look, you know what? We gave this person a chance, and so now I know it's okay to give other people a chance. And like he was saying, you know, there's some doors that he can open that I can't open. There's some doors that she can open that I can't open. Somebody gave her a chance, you know, as a entrepreneur, as a Black woman, as somebody who doesn't even have a brick and mortar. Let me tell you something about banks, okay? If you don't have a brick and mortar, it's tough to get a loan on anything. So even surviving in a pandemic without having anything to kind of have what in the bank eyes deemed as collateral is tough. And it's not fixtures and furniture and TVs. This is what is valued, and that's land, okay? So for her to be surviving in this pandemic, in a situation where, you know, yes, she is mobile, so she, you know, she can move outside of the brick and mortar. Banks are looking at brick and mortar. They're not looking at mobile businesses per se. Why? Because of what's come prior to her. If people go get a loan based off of things that depreciate, it wasn't a good bet for the bank, basically. So for her to be surviving, hey, I'm proud of that, because like she was saying, what Kamala Harris has done has trailblazed a lot for women, just in general. So if you look at it, you know, she's in the White House, she's the president, but when it comes down to just the local level, she's kind of passing the torch for what's behind her. And I think that is really what's going to do the same for us. When I tell people that having a restaurant, and I think they can attest to it, it ain't about having money. Because if you knew the bills, the amount of money it takes, every time the Cisco truck pulls up, is money. Every time the US food bill comes, it's money. Every time the health department comes in and tells you something crazy, it's money. Like, having a restaurant ain't to get rich. I promise you it's not. You know, you got to play a numbers game. You got to deal with customer service. You got to change every day. Is the restaurant perfect? In my opinion, no. Is my restaurant perfect? There's things I got to deal with every single day. But to go down a road or a path that, you know what, we're surviving every single month. We're not putting $100 million in the bank like everybody thinks. I don't know where that lie came from. I don't know why people think that we're just making so much money as business owners or as restaurant owners. Because if it was about us, I promise you, he's in real estate and she's mobile. She's probably smarter than both of us, because she could just pack up and go wherever she wants to go. We really made a choice to say, you know what, we're gonna go down and you know, he's in the West End, Deep Ellum area. I'm in Uptown. trust me, it's tough to be here. And it's not anything that all three of us didn't know, I don't think, going in. I think it was more so, hey, you know what, we're going to overcome obstacles, right? So, and in overcoming those obstacles, now like we can look back and say, you know what, this is bigger than money. This is something that we can stand on. This is something that we have made it through, not just being Black in a white world, let's just be real, but we made it Black being in a white world during a pandemic. Like, it's more than just what people see from the outside, like the stress of the things that come with being a business owner and then being Black and then dealing with a pandemic. I mean, it's crazy, but like, you know, like he was saying, you have to pass the torch, and that's what it's about. This was never about me. This was bigger than any individual in here. And I tell my employees all the time, this is about us as culture, not Black, not white, I want to make this a common ground for people to come and learn about other cultures. So, you know, for us, like, you know, I'm just ready to pass the torch, and I'm sure they are too. We didn't get to talk before this, but you know, hearing about them and doing some research on the restaurants, like that's what it's about. It's not just about the individual.
Awesome. And I think we had another question. I'm going to yield to Randall, but I did want to lift this question up only because we kind of talked about it in our conversation. It was, do we feel the city has any policies or regulations or codes in place that hinder Black business from being successful? I won't put anybody on the spot to answer that, but I think that was just a dynamic question. And I would definitely continue to research that through our equity committee here in 24 Hour Dallas, because those are the types of things that we definitely want to address if they do exist. So I'll yield to Randall for our final question and closing remarks. But before I do that, I just want to encourage everyone. The two takeaways that I have from today is, one, for owners, just be faithful. Stay in the game, stay in the race. You gotta endure to the end, because obviously it's not to the swift or the strong, it's to the one that just sits out and lasts. And to our customers, continue to support and share and expose as we continue to reimagine and do things differently, because now is not the time for us to go back. We can't reinvent Black Wall Street. We can't go back to what the US economy looked like prior to the pandemic. Let's continue to reimagine this space, not for just Black businesses, but for all businesses that are in the 24-hour economy here in Dallas. So I'll yield the floor back to Randall.
Wow, thank you very much. I was going to ask a question. Instead, I'm just going to make one observation. This was very insightful. I learned a lot about business. I learned about the obstacles today, and I learned about surviving in spite of them. And I think that's what the folks who are on the call with us. You had a lot of young entrepreneurs. I know the people who signed up, a lot of young entrepreneurs, other business people, other restaurateurs, trying to figure out how they're doing this. And David in particular, I just want to share with you that the origin of 24 Hour Dallas started about 5 years ago as the result of conflict in Uptown between residents who were nervous about some Black businesses. That's where we began. We began because a client of mine was called in to try and help smooth this without there being mandates coming from Dallas City Hall that would have harmed business. And so from that, 24 Hour Dallas was born at that moment. And that's what we're about today. That's why Ruben is with us to help us as a volunteer focus on equity at night, particularly. We know that Black customers are treated differently than white customers. We know that Black businesses get a different experience in the city of Dallas than white businesses do. And that's something we just want to help move forward in whatever way we can, because we're all about the nighttime economy. And the other thing I will tell you is that we do have about 50 other colleagues in cities around the world who are watching us here in Dallas, because we're doing this differently. A lot of the other organizations that are focused on the nighttime economy elsewhere are municipal divisions. We're a private, independent, nonprofit organization, and we get a lot of attention based on what we're going to be doing with Ruben, specifically in terms of racial equity. So thank you very much for this very valuable input. We will push this forward. I do want to, before everybody slips away, 2 upcoming Zoominars. Tuesday, March 9th at 4 p.m. We're going to host 2 internationally renowned designers and lighting experts, artists, who will take us through the differences of creating public spaces at night from day. and how at night there are things you can do to make a place more exciting, more vibrant. You won't believe some of the work that these two panelists do with light, and our 24-hour Dallas placemaking team chair, Brian Toney, will share that. That'll be March 9th on Tuesday at 4 p.m. as well. Then in April on the 13th, also at 4, two global leaders of the nighttime economy movement, two people who started this whole thing, one from the UK and one from South America, will show us what great cities around the world are doing to make their nights more inclusive, safer, more economically and culturally vibrant. Our economics team chair and board member Gary Sanchez will be our guest host for that. The details and registration links for all that are on our website at 24hourdallas.org. Finally, everyone involved here is a volunteer. We're here because we believe that Dallas at night can be even more positive and culturally inclusive and respectful and economically rewarding for our city, especially as we emerge from this coronavirus pandemic. We could use your volunteer participation. Start by becoming a member of 24-Hour Dallas. A membership is $25 if you're an individual, $100 for businesses and organizations. You can do that at 24hourdallas.org. Wes, David, Chef Williams, Ruben, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us today. My name is Randall White. The nighttime is for everyone. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.